Kahalayim la Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Racha Kodash. And what you see here is his name is Chicken George. George Leah, the best rooster man in his time. We're going to read a little bit about him, and then I'm going to get into the dispersion. All right, first let me give you the skinny first. All right, so today I was watching Apostle Ramla live, and there was a individual, Chris Kim, and he was saying that he feels a calling to the scriptures. So I'm going to get into the word dispersed and how that ties into what you feel. All right, so just pay attention, all right? This man is Chicken George. His mother conceived him after she was repeatedly raped by the master. So what do you think he is? He looks like oh shit, this is a good lesson. He looks like a so-called Negro, right? But his father was a white man. But there's a but. But let's get some understanding. Chicken George's childhood, and yes, I do raise game fowl. I'm a chicken man myself. George was born into slavery in the winter of 1806. And didn't it say in Deuteronomy 28 that we would go into slavery in ships? Who named him George after the first slave who died many years before Daisha? Now that's obscure to me. He was conceived when his mother, this is the important part. He was conceived when his mother was repeatedly raped by her new master after the arrival on the Moore plantation from Virginia. The word Moore has a special meaning. Let's see. Oh man, look at these people. Come on, you fuckers. Well, you know what? Let's roll with the punches in. That's not the only tool I have at my disposal. You gotta be ready to roll with the punches. Look at that motherfucking shit right there. Shit. That's a good one. Alright, so dark, it took me to the word darkling. In the dark mid-15th century, from dark, now obsolete, adverbial ending ling. Compare headlong. The verb darkle is a back formation from 1810. Moore, who rhymed it with sparkle, assuming it was present adjective, but the word more means dark, so that's what I'm telling you. So let's go back a little more. Let's take away the E. Boom. All right, see, look at these different descriptions of the word. All right. Remember, Chicken George was named after his father. So let's pick on this one. North African Berber, late 14th century. For Old French Moor, the medieval Latin is Moris. Inhabitant of Mauritania, Northwest Africa, a region now corresponding to northern Algeria and Morocco. So now you see, if you go down a little bit, it'll tell you, but I'll just get to the good parts. From Greek, Moros, perhaps a native name, or else cognate, and the word cognate means blood relative, with Morus, black. Okay, so that was important. You got to get into these words, Chris Kim. You might be an Israelite. See, and what this means is, even if this man right here, Chicken George's father was white, does that mean that he's not an Israelite? Because his father was white, but his name was Moor, so you got to go by the name Omen Nomen, which means dark. And there was a Moor, the Moors of Europe. They ruled Europe for, I need to do some more study on that, but I want to say almost like 1,000 years maybe. No, not really. I'm not quite sure, but I know that from in Spain there were a lot of Moors, and the word means moreno, and that means dark. So what I'm saying is this man's father was white, but his name means Moor. Okay, now why is that important? Because that man that had a slave was a Moor, a dark-skinned man, and he could possibly be from the tribe of Yehuda, because the Moors called themselves Yehudi, and that means Yehuda. All right. So this guy was the best chicken man. See? So at age 12, Moore moved George from his mother's cabin to live in the gamecock pen where Uncle Mingo lives, and he trains and cares chickens and fighting roosters for the master. And I was looking this up for me, so you can have something like that to look after. This is Matthew 10:7, and as you go preach, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So, you feel like you have a connection is because you do have a connection, and I hope you nurture that. You nurture it good. So now I'm gonna go to another situation. All right. Let's see. This is Second Acts, so you can get Acts chapter 2, and I'll start at 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, there were all with one accord in one place. So there were all these people that you're about to hear about got together to celebrate the day of Pentecost, which is a Hebrew celebration. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as rushing mighty wind, which is the Holy Spirit, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. So these people came from different countries, and you're going to find out. Okay, so why is this important? Is because there was Hebrew Israelites in other countries that came to Israel to work on days of worship, on holy days. All right, let me read that again. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So that's the key point right there. Devout men of every nation under heaven. Now what does that mean? Does that mean that they were from other nations and the Edomites can come and worship? Nope, that doesn't mean that. Does that mean that Moabites can come and worship? No. Your situation is, you look in the mirror, you see a Moabite. But when you do some spiritual thinking, you feel like part of our tribes. So there could be a chance that you are. So you got to keep doing your study. All right. Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. So the multitude is everybody from different nations gathering, and then the other tongues that they're hearing I say other tongues because it's other tongues than me. So I wouldn't understand anybody unless they were speaking to me in English, Spanish, a little bit of Hebrew, or a little bit of Italian, or any of those Latin words, any Latin cognate fucking tongues. You know what I'm saying? Just languages. And how here we every man in our own tongue when we were born. So that's explaining everything. So these people have descendancy. The bloodline goes back to being an Israelite. So that's where you're at. That's because your spirit will go back to how you feel. That's why I got into chickens, because that was part of our heritage, and I found out that we used to do it. My family did it, and it's just something that you either love or you don't. You know, you just like the Bible, you pick it up and then you're with it or you're against it. Now this is another important part. Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, and Egypt, and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians, we do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. So there you go. There you go. All right, so with that, I want to say Shalom.